Hey Rob, so welcome to Escape the Rat Race Radio. How are you today?
I'm all good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming into our studio. And
well, I was just going to say, Rob, normally I would start by asking our guests where in the world are you today, but I know exactly where you are because we're sat opposite each other today in your offices in Peterborough.
Yeah.
So wonderful to be here, and it was actually your good self who really gave me, I guess, my early insights into the world of property. So when I was at a point, which is now 3 years ago, of looking to escape the rat race and not quite sure exactly what I was going to do after so many years in one industry, I began to explore what are the assets out there where I can build wealth, where I can start a new business. And of course, property is at the forefront of that. And Progressive also at the forefront of that education. So, thank you for that. And that really, I would say, ignited my entrepreneurial learnings, which continue day after day, and took me down a path where I made so many connections and learnt so many new skills, and that actually allowed me to then develop Escape the Rat Race and help me to get to where I am today. So firstly, I want to say thank you.
My pleasure.
For your,
that's why we do what we do, don't we? To help other people find their way on their journey. So
that's right. And of course, since then, a lot has happened for you, and congratulate you on the success most recently of your new book, Money.
Thank you.
Which I'd love to talk about later on.
Sure.
And of course, on the launch of your podcast, Disruptive Entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Rob. For those that don't know Rob Moore, please give us just a little introduction as to how you've got to the point where you are today.
Okay, so my dad raised me to be an entrepreneur. He was a real hustler. He had bars, pubs, clubs, hotels, restaurants, and he loved the thrill and the chase of starting a new business. Probably wasn't necessarily the best finisher, and I think I inherited some of that, as many entrepreneurs. Great starters, not always best finishers, but him and my mum made a great partnership, where my mum was probably more of a finisher, but Dad would always go and get the new deals, buy the new premises, go and get the stock, set up the new idea, change the vision of the old hotel into a new hotel. And I watched him do that completely sort of unconsciously, and I think that really gave me the desire that I wanted to run my own business, and that's how I saw work. Actually, I didn't see work as a job or a career because I just wasn't involved in that space. And I used to work for him bottling up even when I was like 5 or 6 years old. He used to get me working really young, and I just loved being in the hustle and bustle of it all. Then I kind of lost my way a bit, so I'd say probably in my teens till about 25. So basically when you could drink and when you're interested in girls, that's when, you know, I was going to say better at that, but I wouldn't say I was better at that, but I got way more into that. And so my grades and my sort of, my focus on what I wanted to do with my life, I got lost. And I came back from university and I was just scratching around, didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd got an architecture degree but never did anything with it. I racked up quite a lot of debt, as most people do from university, so that got to about 50 grand when it got really hard for me. And I think I was just searching, Chris. You know, I was like, should I take over from the dad's pub, try it for a bit? Nah, not really my passion. You know, and just was lost. And then on December the 15th, 2005, my dad had a nervous breakdown in his pub in front of all of the customers, and it was horrible. And he got sectioned by the police. He actually got treated. He got beaten by the police. The way that they sectioned him was pretty brutal, and it was in front of my mum and my sister and myself outside the pub. And I think it hit me in that moment that I felt quite a deep sense of guilt and shame that you know, I wasn't really living to my full potential. I always wanted to prove to my dad that I could be someone, but that was, I guess, that was the trigger which snapped me out of almost like this nearly a decade of just sort of comfort hypnosis, you know, feeling lost. And it's weird how things can change when all of a sudden you're like, right, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I've got to do something. Because then all the opportunities you didn't think were there, you start to see. So weirdly, I was hanging my art in a gallery, wasn't selling very much, and the gallery owner, Mike Wildman, who was always really nice to me and always supported me, hung work that he didn't think would sell just to help a young, struggling artist out. He said, hey, you should get into property, you should go to a property event. And people have been telling to get me into property for years, because everyone was trying to get into property before the crash. And I was like, I haven't got any money, can't, I haven't got any money, can't. And then when he said it to me this time, after December the 15th, I was like, right, I'm there. My first ever property networking event I went to, I met this really weird individual called Mark Homer, who's my business partner today, and we bought over 700 properties together for ourselves and other people. So that door opened itself, and I got into property in a big way. And then initially I only wanted to buy property myself. I never thought I'd be a trainer, an educator, a podcaster, an author, a world record holder, all this stuff. That's just all the fun stuff that happened afterwards. But what we found was, you know what it's like with property. If you buy enough properties, you're always going to run out of money. I don't care if you're Lord Sugar. You buy enough properties, you'll run out of money. And we just kept running out of money. We ran out of Mark's money. We ran out of his mum's money, his stepdad's money, my mum's money, my uncle's money, because we were doing joint ventures, and I did all this with none of my own money. And so then we looked to write books and run courses because there was big demand. So we got into the training space. I think it's really important that you teach what you do, you know, because, you know, there's that famous saying, those that do, and those that can't teach. And I don't think it should be like that. I think that if you're going to teach, you should know what you're doing. And it took us many years of buying properties before we started writing books and doing courses, of course, which you know a lot about. And last year, our training businesses were generating almost £20 million in revenue. And then sort of podcasting and writing books grew from there. I'm about 3 days away from having my 10th book finished, although it's version 1 draft. And yeah, it's just been a bit of a crazy journey. I love being in business. I love being an entrepreneur. I love creating things. You know, the great thing about the capitalist system and being an entrepreneur is you're rewarded for the value you put out in the world. And so you can create stuff that people want and need, solve their problems, like, you know, we've been involved in, and like with what you do, and, you know, you get the payoff, whether it's the reach and the brand and the exposure, like podcasts do, because you don't charge for them, or whether it's the trickle-down economics of people listening to your podcast and then finding your books and your courses and everything else, or whether it's, you know, really nice mentoring fees. I mentor a few celebrities, and, you know, that's just really the icing on the cake. So yeah, that's the short version, the podcast edit version.
Short. So a couple of things I'd like to pick up on there, Rob. How do you think things would have turned out had you have not had that meeting with Mark Homer that day?
I'd probably be in rehab. Yeah, there's no, you know, because fundamentally I'm the same person pre-2005 as post-2005. Because, you know, most of our personalities are formed when we're, what, 7 odd years old. So, like, it's not like I had this lobotomy, you know, like a complete brain transplant. I still had the same strengths and still had the same weaknesses, but I'd failed really as a pub landlord, I'd failed really as an artist, and I'd done an architecture degree and did nothing with it, so you've got to call that a failure. But then other ventures I went into with Mark, I succeeded in. And, yeah, you know, like, I remember mentors like Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy saying things to me like, you know, the things that will change when you become successful are the people you hang around with and the books that you read. Or, of course, now the podcast you listen to, because it's a different world. And that really is true. So it's just what I've learned and what I know and who I've hung around with has changed. I was talking to you, wasn't I, about going to Strictly Come Dancing, and I don't want to say the name of the celebrity because I don't think that's discretionary, but, you know, like, I'm around these crazy celebrities and I'm mentoring a lot of them. And it's like, whoa, who'd have thought all of this would have happened? And it's just, you know, you get a higher level, as you gain experience and knowledge and wisdom and wealth, you know, the people that you hang around with, you get a higher quality of people, but you can kind of engineer that as well. If you're not where you want to be, then you've got to get yourself in and around a higher quality of person. And Mark was the first real higher quality of person. And I don't judge a person's character, i.e., you know, he's a better person. He's just, in terms of skills of entrepreneurship and business and money and where I wanted to go, he had more experience and knowledge.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that you have very complementary skills. So yeah, if we look at some of the psychometric tests out there, Wealth Dynamics, DISC, talk about creative types, such as yourself, who self-admits you have 100 ideas probably before lunchtime every day. Yeah. Whereas Mark is bringing the analytical,
Mark wants to do one idea over and over for the next 9 millennia.
Yes. Yeah. So had you have both been of similar personality types, it would have been a very different dynamic.
No, it'd been like a cat fight. Yeah. And, you know, obviously at Progressive, one of my companies, we talk a lot about people joint venturing and raising finance, and a lot of people go into partnership in our community. And I always say you want someone with complementary, opposite skills, but a similar vision. Yeah. And, you know, that person's not easy to find, but they're out there. Yeah. But if you do the same thing, if two of you do the same thing, one of you isn't needed, and you just get in each other's way. Yeah. But the challenge with people with complementary and opposite skill sets is that they're very different to you. So you're going to find them a little strange, and they're going to find you a little strange. And you know, and embracing their uniqueness and difference, I think, is really important. A lot of people come to me when they're having problems with partnerships. They're like, "Oh, they're like this, they're like this, they're like this." Well, also the reason they're like that has great benefit to you. You know, Mark is very detailed and analytical, so sometimes he hounds me for details and pesters me for specifics that I don't think in those terms. But it's because of that we have good contracts. It's because of that we have tight cost control.
Yeah. So, of course, before money came out, your previous book was Life Leverage, hugely successful as well. And one of the points I'd like to touch on is, for our listeners right now, many will still be in full-time jobs. They'll be trying to build a business alongside, you know, a 9-to-5 job. And that can be tough, and time is always something that, you know, you hear over and over. We don't have enough time to do things. Of course, we know that you prioritize the most important things. You find time for the things that matter most. In terms of leveraging, when someone is starting a business and when they're pretty certain that they're onto the right track, because of course that's a different thing as well, is investing a lot of time and energy into something that maybe is not the right best suit for you in terms of business opportunity. But when someone does feel that they're on the right track with it, but they're just not sure like how they can fit any more in because they're still working 9 to 5, what's your advice in terms of how quickly they should begin to leverage, and who should be the first people that they should be looking for? And does it touch on, again, these complementary skills, finding people that can do the things that you don't like?
Sure. Okay. Do you mind if we start the live? While we do
already?
This? No, we're not live. Because you want an excerpt, not the full thing.
Of course.
So
shall I ask that question?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Why don't we start the live? Let's see how this works. Okay. Crazy world we're living in now. We're doing like 5 different versions of this at once. You've got your video on.
Used to this. Yeah. Probably haven't got enough going.
No. Oh, it's trying to reconnect. There we go. Hi, it's Rob. I'm being interviewed by Christian Rodwell.
Hello, everyone.
From Escape the Rat Race podcast, and we thought we're doing a live podcast with a live video, so we thought we might as well go live as well. So Chris has just asked me about leveraging, about fitting in tasks, about outsourcing. Many of Chris's listeners, you know, they're sort of just trying to sort of set up and scale up their own business. Now, leverage is probably my favourite word in the dictionary. And there's a lot of people out there that say that to be successful you have to work hard. And I disagree with that. Because if you work hard, what about your family? What about your children? Do you want them to leave home not knowing who their parents are? Also, you get to the point in a day where if you work too hard, you then start making bad decisions, you get tired, you get emotional, maybe angry, maybe, you know, you push people away. So actually, working smart is as important as working hard. So leverage is about working not just hard, but working smart. So number one is, who else can I get to do this task, rather than how do I do this task? We were just talking before about having partners and maybe even staff, outsourcers, who have the strengths to your weaknesses and vice versa. So I used to think, oh, I've got to do this job, or how do I do this job, or I don't want to do this job. Now I've retrained my brain to ask, who can I get to do this job? So I always say I outsource so much that even my business partner, Mark Homer, does all my worrying for me. I've outsourced worry to him. He can worry day and night and have sleepless nights about everything, which he does. No point me doing it too, because that's what he does. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, is that your first question now? Always, who can I get to do this, first and foremost?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is. And it's not because I'm a lazy bastard, and it's not because I'm trying to shirk responsibility. Because sometimes if I say, who should I get to do this? The answer is, I should. If I've got a customer that's loyal to my company and it's not getting the service that they want, and they've tried to get in touch with our team and it's not worked out, I'll pick up the phone. And I spend, you know, a good 1 to 2 hours a day looking after my customers, community members, followers and fans in some way or other. So sometimes who can I get to do it is me, because I'm the right person. But admin, coding, you know, analysis, research, CRM, data mining, finance, accounts, processes, systems is not my skill set. It's not my flow. If I do it, it'll take me 10 times as long as someone who can do it, and I'll mess it up. So that's like a thought process. It's almost like a mindset, because many people in England, and especially in the north of England, and especially with our current previous hard-working generation of family, because our family didn't have internet, they didn't really have anything to leverage. Our parents couldn't go on People Per Hour or Upwork or 99 Designs and outsource, so they had to do that all themselves. So their skill was working hard and being relentless, and their ethic. But the world's different now, and I'm not saying you don't have to work hard enough. Sorry, you shouldn't work hard, but you have to work hard enough so that you don't have to work hard. If you can make any sense of that. I'm not saying you don't have to work hard. I'm saying that you've got so much opportunity now to get help, to leverage, to outsource. And a lot of people say things to me like, well, you know what, Rob, I've tried stuff and it didn't work out and I'll do it myself. But that's like going out on a few dates and having a girlfriend or boyfriend, it not working out and going, oh, well, I'm never going to do that again. I'll stay single and lonely for the rest of my life. Even when we're really scarred, I'm going to have some moments single, and then you're lonely. So it's a mindset. And also, there's a lot of guilt. Like if you haven't done 10 hours hard work a day and you get to the end of the day and you think, I didn't really do much, I only did an hour, there's this like guilt, so a societal-based guilt. Because, a lot of these American influencers that you follow, or a lot of our parents, it's like, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. I know I've got about 3, maybe 4 highly productive hours in the day. And the rest of the time, I should be doing things that don't need my full attention and focus. And for me, that's 6:15 till about 8:30, and then I get another little spike at about 11:30 till about 1. The rest of the time, I'm on 50 or 60 or 70%, and after 6 o'clock, I'm on about 1%, where I'm basically just dribble worthy, and that's it. Yeah. So you've got to change the mindset. Now, if I can get a design done by you on 99 Designs for 50 quid, and that takes you an hour, me getting a design not as good might take me a day or 2 days, and the time opportunity cost might have cost me 500 quid. So you've got to think about time opportunity cost of what you're doing, so that what you couldn't be doing. An example, my new book, Start Now, Get Perfect Later. If I tried to design the cover, I used to be an architect and I used to be an artist. I could probably make some nice fancy designs and sketches, but it might take me a couple of days. Now a couple of days might be 15 chapters of my book. Now I make hundreds of thousands of pounds out of every book. So for every 5 or 10 chapters I can't write, I'm much further away from making that money. But someone on 99 Designs can do that for 100 quid. Yep. Or my 2 designers in there, I've basically given the 2 designers a competition to come up with the best design.
So question on that, for someone who isn't as far down the line as you are at the moment, Rob, who is still educating themselves in that entrepreneurial mindset, how do you value your time? Do you have an equation for someone who's moving out of employment? So it's very clear, you work, your fixed hours, you get paid your X amount at the end of the month. Something people don't talk about is when you start a business and then suddenly you're the boss of you. You've got to work out what the most important tasks are. Yeah,
I think you need to be ruthlessly efficient on this. And in my book, Life Leverage, I have a calculation called IGT, which is income generating time, which is your gross revenue per month divided by your hours worked per month. And if you work out your wage in hours weekly, then it's gross revenue weekly divided by number of hours worked. So if you earn £1,000 a week and you work 10 hours a week, you're worth £100 an hour, i.e. every hour of worked time, that is worth £100 to you. So every activity, function, task, project that doesn't or might not bring in more than 100 quid, you must outsource it, otherwise it brings your hourly value down. And if it could make you 2,000 or 5,000, like having a meeting with Lord Sugar or some kind of joint venture proposal, or looking to maybe sell your business or going to raise finance, then that should or could be you. Now what you find is if you work out your calculations, so everyone should do this, if you're listening or watching the live, do it right now. Just work out roughly what you work per week or month in terms of hours, and work out the gross revenue. So the revenue from worked income, passive income, assets that you have, all income except loans or gifts that should be factored in. So I'll just give you another example. £1,000 a week, 10 hours a week, you're worth 100 quid a week. Now, once you start outsourcing £10 tasks, your value goes up 100, 150, 200 pounds. Now, what a lot of people do is £10 tasks when they could be doing £100 or £1,000 or £50,000 tasks. And I found it was Perry Marshall who taught me to do a work log for a couple of weeks, note down every sort of 15 to 30 minute chunks of time what I was doing. I sent it to him, he red penned it saying low value, low value, low value, low value, low value. Taught me 80-20 principle. And then he put, look, this, if you're a property investor, viewings, high value, raising finance, high value, managing your portfolio, high value, dealing with tenants, low value, doing inventories, low value, redecorating and refurbing the houses, low value. And then, you know, you've got your hourly rate worked out, you work out the 3 or 4 or 5 high value key result area tasks, you do more of them, you outsource everything else, it costs you £10 to outsource that task that earns you 100 therefore goes up and up and up because you don't have to do £10 tasks, which brings your average down, and so it compounds upwards. Yeah. So it's kind of like an algorithmic way of making decisions to know the value of your time. And you will hear really wealthy people say things like, it's not worth my time, it's not worth my time, it's not worth my time. And kind of poor people think, oh, well, look at this person, it's not worth my time, it's beneath them. But they're not saying it because they're above you, they're saying it because they can earn £50,000 in an hour's meeting. A property investor who views and gets a deal done on a property can make a lot of money in that viewing. Yeah. Whereas if they're doing their own tax returns or paperwork or whatever, then they can't earn any money.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would lead me on then to the next question of when someone has followed your advice there, Rob, and they're really clear on what their time is worth, and now they're generating more money from their part-time job, business, than their full-time. When is the right time to quit? And I know that you've covered this.
When is the right time to quit? Okay.
And this is obviously based on an individual's, you know, what they want out of it. Do they? Yeah. So I'll let you go.
The right time for me to quit was when I got fired. So I've had 2 jobs in my life, and I got fired 3 times. So I must have a world record in that as well. So there are different ways to quit your job. So I'm going to go through the different steps, and we'll make this the final one on the live feed because, you know, I want to get this out to your followers as well. So the first thing you've got to think is, should you actually quit? Because escaping the rat race isn't escaping a job you love to do, because you're not in the rat race. Because, you know, if you love what you do, then that's great. And if you're a musician and maybe you're a session drummer or session musician and you love it, why quit? Escaping the rat race for you might just be creating a pension, having a second income or a part-time, you know, job on the side, or setting up an e-commerce business, or selling some merch, or having a portfolio. A lot of people in Progressive who have a property portfolio, they do it part-time to build a pension. So that's number one, because, you know, there's a lot of people that say, oh, well, if you've got a job, you're a loser. Well, not, if you've got a job that you love, you should keep it. You've just got to work out what your part-time side hustle, as the Americans call it. So that's number one. And by the way, some people are not the right personality for an entrepreneur. You know, some people like to be told what to do. They like to follow a system. They want the security and safety. And if you're that kind of person, let go of the dream. Or do it on the side in your bedroom part-time and work on the computer. But the reality is some people are not made to be entrepreneurs. Step 2 then is, if you know in your heart you are made to be an entrepreneur, you do one of the following 2 or 3 things. I think the smartest play is to set a future date in the future between 6 and 24 months in the future where you're planning to leave work. And so then what you do is you set a target income. So let's say you earn £5 a month at the moment. Well, you probably waste £1,000, let's be honest, and you could probably reduce your expenses a bit. So you could probably get to £3,500 a month, replace that income, and then you can leave your job. And you've got to give yourself the timeline. Parkinson's law sort of states that, you know, time and space will open and shut according to, you know, what you fill it with and the deadlines and the time that you have. So the longer the timeline you give yourself, the less you'll do and the more you'll fill it with unimportant tasks. The more of a hard deadline you put on, the more you'll fill it with important tasks and empty unimportant tasks. I've written a whole chapter on gaming yourself in my new book, which is how to game yourself and trick yourself into hard deadlines so you get your important tasks done.
Very good.
And I've got 15 book critics coming over in 1 week, or I'm paying their expenses to come and sit in that room over there and critique my book for 2 days. That's a hard deadline. That's going to cost me a lot of money, and I'm going to look stupid if I haven't finished the book by then. And that's been forcing me to write 5 or 6 chapters a day. And if I hadn't had that hard deadline, I wouldn't write the book. So you need your hard deadline for leaving your job, 6 to 24 months away. Then, of course, you need your income target set. Then you need to go and work out what the right strategy is for you to earn the income. Is it property? Is it e-commerce? Is it doing something online, you know, with information, publishing, marketing, whether it's books or products? It's easier than ever to get information out there through podcasts and YouTube videos and that kind of thing. Or have you got any other skills? Do you want to be a musician, you know, whatever else it is? And then you've got to get to work, and you've got to get the evenings, the weekends, nick the times at lunch, you know, try and get a, you know, maybe you can scale your work back over time, go down to 4 days, go down to 3 days, so you can do it in a progressive manner. The alternative is to hand your notice in and then go and work it out on the way. And as they say, jump off and then pull your parachute later. And you know what? For some people, that is definitely wrong. But for some people, that's the only way you're getting out of the job. And I was forced into that because I was fired. But I was going to leave anyway. And it was a real blessing in disguise getting fired, because Mark and I were planning to set up Progressive, but Mark was just taking so long. And so we got fired, which was great. I was actually doing a reality TV show in St Albans, and I was away in like this big mansion for 6 weeks. Right. And while I was away, we got fired, and Mark had to take all the shit while I was on the TV show. And he was so not only did I get us fired, but Mark had to deal with all the crap while I was doing this "Wow, look at me" TV show. And I came back at the end of December, and then Progressive was incorporated in January. Now, if that hadn't happened, we might have waited 6 months, a year, and you know, that business got into troubles, and we might have been involved in that. Mark openly admits, you know, he might have taken 2 years to leave.
Yeah. So it's taking that.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in on the live. I hope you've enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more lives. And remember, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. Cool. Thanks.
Good. No, you're welcome. So that would lead me then to another question of how to pick the right lane, how to know whether property is the right strategy for you, whether e-commerce is the right strategy for you, because obviously there are plethora, millions of courses and ideas. There's no shortage of information out there. As many people say, it's a lack of direction.
Yeah.
What's your advice for people to try and shortcut the amount of money and time that they invest into programs and courses which maybe are never going to be the best suit for them?
Yeah, okay. Wow. You know, maybe I should write a book on that at some point. I think that number one is you're allowed to give yourself some time to see what's out there. You know, you and I were talking before about the course junkies, and I said, I'm probably the biggest course junkie out there. I actually worked out that Mark and I, between us, invested in ourselves through our companies what we've put our staff through. We've invested about £1.2 million, courses, education programs, etc. And if I'm honest, which is the only way to be, I bet you I have implemented less than I have implemented. So at least half I have probably done nothing with. But the other half has made me tens of millions of pounds. So, you know, it's better to learn too much than not enough. But a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to find the right thing straight away, in which case they take too long to find the right thing, and they procrastinate and they get overwhelmed. So it's like you should allow yourself a period, a grace period, a dating period, where for 2 or 3 months you're going to go, I'm going to see what's out there. Because if you go, right, I've got to wait until I've got the perfect strategy and then I'm only going to learn that, you don't know what's out there. So enjoy 2 or 3 months. You know, if you'd have been married for 25 years and then you're not married anymore, you're allowed to enjoy being single for a few months. So you should enjoy going out there and testing. Go to some free events, listen to some podcasts, go and have a look at what's about. Check out, you know, cryptocurrency, check out e-commerce, check out public speaking, check out podcasting, check out property, you know, check out internet marketing, check out authoring. But what you've got to do is probably set a timeline where you do that for 3 months, and then you decide to focus. But to focus, you've got to learn what's out there. So you've probably got to try a few things. Get yourself on a good property course, get yourself on a good book writing course, you know, get yourself on a good information publishing course, And maybe if you're going to settle on one, you might need to try 3 or 4. And then when you find the one that aligns, i.e. you can see the model works, you can see that you've got passion for it, you can see there's a market for it, you can see that you would do this for a long time without getting distracted and jumping on the next biggest thing, then you go deep on that thing. Now some people are either trying to go too deep or too focused on one thing without knowing what's out there. So they go into this thing and then they see what's out there and they're like, oh, you know, it's like marrying the first person you see. You're not going to necessarily do that. Other people are like, you know, the grass is greener on the other side, and they're always just jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, when the past thing and the thing before and the thing before and the thing before could have and would have worked if they'd have given it long enough. So we're kind of balancing all these opposing forces, which is committing and staying the course long enough to make it work, but trying enough out there to know what's right and suited for you. Through that whole process, you're developing your self-awareness. Do I have grass is greener syndrome? Do I have FOMO, fear of missing out syndrome? Do I, you know, quit at the first difficulty? Because sometimes people are changing, not because it's wrong, but because they're quitting, because they had unrealistic expectations. And so they're making decisions with extreme volatile emotions. So you build your self-awareness. Why do I keep changing, or why do I never start? Because for those who never start, trying a few things is the best cure. But for those that are trying too many things, stopping a load of things is the best cure. So you want to build the self-awareness over time to know what your weaknesses are. And for me, I had to learn to say no more. And I had to learn not to be allured by an opportunity that could be the right opportunity at the wrong time. So I've got a few things in the background that I really want to do. I really want to set up a digital marketing agency, you know, because obviously I've got a really successful podcast in the UK. I'm the author of 9 books, plus we've published Gerald Ratner's audiobook, plus we've published a couple of other audio books. You know, we could become an audiobook publisher, we could become a podcast publisher, we could become a digital marketing agency. And I've said no because we've got too many things on. Now, I wouldn't have had that self-awareness 10 years ago. But so what I do, though, to sort of appease my need, is say, yes, but not right now. Which kind of lets me wait, but also lets me know that I haven't given it up completely and I could come back to it. Because if you make a decision final, you know, kind of you shouldn't make too many decisions final, because in 3 to 6 months it might be the right thing. And what we just made a decision to do today is we're looking for one as junior designer, but we've decided to hire 2. So that, you know, one, if one leaves, we've still got one. But number 2 is we can give one of them a bit of external work, and we can start building the digital marketing agency up from there. Yeah. I've been holding my podcast course back for probably 9 months. Because one, we run a lot of courses, so much so that one of my critics once said, Rob, you do so many bloody courses, one day you'll do a course on how to write a course. What a good idea. Yeah, I love that. So I've been holding it back, which I find hard to do because I just want to tell everyone because I get so excited about it. And then I did just a little test launch last Thursday, and by Saturday morning I'd sold 52 places on this new podcast course. But also, I'd been doing a podcast about a year when I had the idea to do a course. And I thought, you know what, give myself another year, get over the 1 million subscribers, and, you know, just give it a bit longer and get a few more good guests, and then I'll just have a better story. So sometimes you can do something too early. It's the right thing, but you do it too early. You know, like if you're, like, for example, if you're looking to get really big guests on your podcast, like I know you are and I am, you know, like if you approach them when you've got 1 subscriber, that might be a bit early. If you approach them when you've got 20 or 30,000, you know, then they might go for it. So sometimes you can do the right thing too early. Sometimes you can do the right thing at the wrong time. So it's balancing all those opposing forces.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, there's obviously a lot of talk right now about entrepreneurship. It feels like in the UK...
It's the best time ever to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. However, you've already mentioned that entrepreneurship is not right for everyone. So I was chatting with someone recently, and they posed the question to me that, do people want to own a business, or do they just want to generate an additional income? And out of all the thousands of people that you've trained that come along to learn about property, about e-commerce and all of the different programs, what would you say most people's driving force is? To actually own a business or to generate additional income?
Okay, so I mean, we must have trained 300,000 or 400,000 people. So I get to look and watch a lot of people and help them and see their challenges. And there isn't one size fits all answer. I wish there were, because it'd be easy. I think that there are some people, they want the baby and not the labour pains. And that's where it goes a bit wrong for them, because they think, oh, I can get the passive income, but they don't realise that they have to set the asset to create the passive income. And then when it gets a bit harder setting the asset, they give up. But you have to build the asset to pay the passive income. So passive income is possible, but you have to work hard enough not to have to work hard. So there are those types. Then there are just the types that want freedom, and they don't want to be told to do what don't want to be told what to do by anyone. And we discussed that earlier. And I think that freedom is, having more control and autonomy, but it's also about accepting that we're all beholden to people, whether it's your children, your wife, your staff, your customers, your followers, your fans, you know, your church, your charity, whatever. We're all actually beholden to someone. You know, I own Progressive, but I'm beholden to Mark to some degree. There's plenty of my team in the office, mostly the women, who I'm completely their biatch. And I like being like that because it gives me accountability and it keeps me in control and it keeps me from getting my head in the clouds too much and, losing touch with reality. So part of my freedom is having great people around me that give me the freedom, but I'm also accountable to them. I think some people just love entrepreneurship. Like, I'm one of those. I love entrepreneurship. I love creating an idea. I love seeing it being built. I love serving my customers and clients. I love solving their problems. I love creating ideas, or I don't really have a problem with ideas. I just need a Costa coffee. I love getting those ideas out there. I love making money. I love writing books. You know, I love learning all the time. And so there's at least 3 different types there. I think there's also the intrapreneur, and we attract a lot of them at Progressive, which is to someone who probably doesn't want the risk of setting up on their own. They don't want to be in their bedroom on their own, but they've got entrepreneurial traits. Like, we've got at least 3 people in that room: Tom, head of innovation; Nick, head of brand and design, who they don't want to be micromanaged. They don't want to be told what to do all the time. They don't want to be treated like a cubicle employee, but they don't want to set up on their own because they know the risks or they've tried it before. And I call them intrapreneurs. Well, James Kahn taught me about entrepreneurship. And we like to attract them, so that's probably a 4th type.
Yeah.
And self-awareness of knowing which one you are relieves you of decades of pain. Because not knowing who you are makes you vulnerable to wanting to be anyone and everyone else. And then you're inspired by that person or that model, I want to be like that. And then you're inspired by that, I want to be like that. But knowing who you are means you can let go of the things that aren't right for you, which gives you more clarity.
Mm. And one way of beginning by finding out who you are, look at your values, get clear on that.
Yeah.
Just really want to touch quickly, Rob, because I know we're sort of nearing the end of time here, but vision. I would love to get your opinion on setting your vision, because at the beginning, perhaps that's a really big question for people to answer, and your purpose. However, as you develop, as you grow, you learn about entrepreneurship, you see the potential and possibilities, the vision, the mission grows. What's your advice for people listening right now who maybe are sort of on the daily commute? They're driven, they study personal development, but they can't put their finger on the vision and the mission right yet.
So I've experienced prolonged periods in my life where I've been out of balance, and I've only seen one of the polar opposites of a situation. So, for example, between the sort of 15 to 25, I was probably overly on the negative side, overly on the I'm not very confident side, overly on the can't do side, overly on the bitter, jealous, envious side. Then when I did a load of rah-rah American Tony Robbins, Chris Howard courses, which I loved, I was on the overly positive side, a little bit delusional, a little bit naive. And either extreme gets you out of balance and actually isn't the cure for sustained progress, happiness, etc. And so I think the best piece of advice I can give before I answer this question is, when you give yourself balance and embrace the paradoxes that exist in everything, I think it gives you more wisdom, more sustainability, and more self-awareness. So to answer your question, the paradox is, when you're more clear on a vision, you can drop all low priorities, let go of all business models that you are flirting with that aren't right for you, and forge a clear path forward. And you can grow and build a legacy. But you don't need one to start, Because there's people like Simon Sinek who've got the, find your why. And I'm seeing a lot of people going, oh, I can't start because I don't know what my why is. And it's like, we're making problems that aren't there. So you're allowed to date before you get married. So, it will really help you when you find your vision and your calling and you're clear, because that'll give you strategy, focus, that, you'll enjoy doing the work. People will be attracted to you. You'll have a clear brand. You'll get recommendations, referrals, etc. But putting undue pressure on yourself to find it and then trying to decide too quickly and having a wrong vision doesn't serve you either. And I was in the wilderness in that regard for probably 7 to 10 years. So when you're trying to find your vision, that's the time when you can play, when you can be creative, when you can experiment, when you can try stuff. Because my vision is so clearly set now. I want to create global financial freedom, and I want to help people across the planet get better financial education, especially young people and underprivileged people. But that in a way that stereotypes me, and if I wanted to go and do some health retreats, or I don't know, I wanted to go and play in a band, heavy metal band, I'm a suppressed heavy metal guitarist, people are going to go, what drugs are Rob on? Rob's lost his way, he's changed his mind. I'm following for this and he's talking about this. So once you're really branded, it's kind of difficult to unbrand yourself. So while you're not branded, try stuff. So basically, keep searching for a greater vision, keep searching for what your fuel is and your drive. And of course, you'd have done different podcasts with people like John DeMartini where you would have probably talked about that. And then when you find it, you'll have more clarity. Now, one thing Dr. John taught me was, he said, you're always wise to have a vision just slightly bigger than yourself to force yourself to grow. And when you start and you're in debt, for example, your vision can be quite selfish, which is get out of debt. But once you're out of debt, you're not really going to grow because people aren't going to be attracted to you to get you out of debt. So then you might want to serve your family. And then once you've helped your family, you serve your community, and then you serve your region, and then you serve your country, and then you serve your continent, and then you serve your globe, and then you go intergalactic. And what I found was just progressively tweaking up the vision. Because if you've never done any business at all and you say, I'm going to be a billionaire, that's my vision in a year, and I'm going to help 7 billion people on the planet, you've gone too far. So just getting the vision a little bit bigger each time.
And vision can change. It doesn't need to be.
You're allowed to pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
Kodak didn't pivot.
Yeah.
They pretty much designed the digital camera and didn't pivot. Whereas Rolls-Royce pivoted from cars into, from aircraft into cars. Coca-Cola was a medicinal drink, and then it went into refreshment. So you're allowed to pivot. So what I try and do is, what's the umbrella? So for me, the umbrella is business, personal development, growth, progress, continual learning. Now, the great thing is that gives me a lot of freedom to pivot. I can do e-commerce, I can do information marketing, I can write books with ever increasing. So for example, I wrote Life Leverage, which has a wider market than property, but then Money, my latest book, has a wider market. And then sort of Time Management and Life Management has a wider market, which is my next book. Start Now, Get Perfect Later. So have this umbrella which gives you the flexibility to have niches within it, and gives you room to pivot.
Yeah, and I do just want to highlight there the foundation that you've recently set up and all of your personal proceeds from the Money book going into that. Would you like to just share how that came about, obviously as a result of vision? And
sure.
You probably didn't have that idea,
no.
And
it's okay when you start to know that charity starts at home, and rescue yourself. Put the air mask on yourself on the plane if there's a crash before you put it on your kids. And some people want to help people so much, they don't help themselves, they don't charge enough for their work, they're a bit arty. So I wasn't helping myself, and then I decided to help myself. And at that point, I wasn't thinking about charity, global financial freedom, etc. But what I found is once I got to a point where I helped myself, I became a millionaire between the age of 30 and 31, and then that grew. I had this burning within me to make more committed and more structured how I help other people. And also, the greatest billionaires of our time who've left the biggest legacies are philanthropists, and were philanthropists. So I'm just modelling the traits of the greats. So yeah, I set up my foundation. We've literally just got the legal process done. It took a lot longer than I thought, because I'm naive and think things take a lot quicker than they do. But then that gets me to do things. So I thought it would be a really good way to kickstart the foundation, which aims to help as many people across the planet get better financial education, by tying it in with the launch of the book Money. And so every penny that I would earn in profits is going to go to the foundation, and my aim is to raise £1 million as quickly as possible to finance some things in that foundation, which I'm going to keep open-minded at the moment, because that might be trips to the third world to do research, maybe to even, you know, set up networks, because a lot of places still don't have internet. People can't set up an online business in the third world if they don't have an internet connection. But then it might be creating online profile, online training platforms, you know, like Udemy and things like that, but giving it free for underprivileged and maybe, you know, youths under 18, whereas everyone else has to pay. I'm going to stay flexible with that. I'm going to let that design itself. Yeah, and so also, you know, like, I've got a few critics and trolls out there. If you haven't got any, you're not big enough. And you know, I wanted to just say to all of them, well, anyone who thinks I'm just writing the book Money to make a greedy capitalist profit, well, I want to show you that I've got faith in the trickle-down economics principle, where enough people will find my other pieces of art, books, and courses, such that I give all the money away to charity. And, you know, that'll be millions of pounds I'll be giving away, because that book will make millions of pounds. But yeah, that's the vision. That's how the book is linked to the foundation.
Yeah, no, awesome stuff. So Rob, I know you're up for a bit of fun. I haven't done the quickfire round for a little while on the podcast, but I know this has been good fun with you. So first one is Enter the Mentor. So we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for mentors, and both you and I mentor other people. So your advice for someone who's just starting out, who's considering a mentor, doesn't know how to find one, or really the value of a mentor, just what would be your experience of working with mentors yourself?
So do I have like a set time on these quick fire ones?
Yeah, 60 seconds.
Okay, fine. So there's someone out there who's been there, done it, and can do easily what you're finding hard. You've got to search those people and hunt them out. You know, there are the sayings, standing on the shoulders of giants, you know, and why spend all the time trailblazing and making all the mistakes when someone out there can guide you along? So find the people who've done it, find the people who are the best at it. My golden rule is read all their books, listen to all their podcasts, audio books, follow them on Facebook, watch their live feeds, basically do an online stalk of them. And then you get mentor overload, where there's too many and you listen to contrasting advice. Then you thin it down to your 3 best ones, and you try and follow them and do all their work and go on all their courses and retreats. Consume all their free stuff first, you know, and then make some money on their free, because the best ones will you make money on their free stuff and then reinvest into their paid stuff.
Perfect advice. Next one, rejection recall. So all entrepreneurs have had their ups and downs along the way. Can you recall one defining moment where you just thought, I can't get any lower than this point right now?
I mean, December the 15th, 2005, when my dad had his breakdown, was definitely the lowest point in my life. And he's still with us, so obviously I still feel grateful that the lowest point in my life wasn't as low as what a lot of people have had listening. I don't really hold on to stuff. So what I do though, this would be interesting, no one would have given you this answer. I keep an Evernote folder of all the people that I think have defamed me, have become my critics and haters, have said stuff which is unfair, have said Rob will not succeed, and I keep a little name of all of them in a little folder. Because that motivates me to go and prove them wrong. I'm not going out there commenting about them, I just let them go and do their thing. You know, if you throw stones every dog that barks, you never get anywhere, as Churchill said. But they motivate me. But what was the question? Rejection recall.
Yeah, and how do
you have to master rejection, and by the way, you never stop getting rejected. Recently I've experienced some rejection in certain parts of our business. I just think, wow, you just never stop getting rejected. You just have to keep rolling with it.
And the bigger you grow, the bigger the falls.
Yeah, the bigger the rejection you'll get.
Yeah, great. Next one, what's happening? So you are the leverage king, and there must be an app that you're using right now, which you've just discovered, can you share one with everyone? A new app you've discovered, which is really helping you in your business.
Better have a look on the phone, haven't I? So you get app overload, don't you? It's like the big problems in the world now are overwhelm. So, you know, first world problems. But so I'm doing the opposite, trying to reduce apps. The ones that I like, Evernote is a great one. And of course, you know, you can merge your business contacts, make notes, share on all devices. That's a pretty simple one. I'm back on my Fitness Pal to track all my calories for my health. I have Control 4, which is all the home automation. So I could go on now and see all the security cameras and operate all the lights and all of the audio and everything else, the security. Tape record's a brilliant one to record calls. You know, if you're doing coaching or to create, you know, online programs or write systems. If you have calls with your staff, you can call that to, you can record that to write systems for your staff. So apparently Curve is good to take all your credit cards and put them into one credit card. There's 4.
There you go. Value for money there. Always offering more value. Excellent. Thank you for that. So final question, Rob. For someone who's listening right now, they're on that busy train or maybe sat in the car in the traffic jam on the way to work, and they're just being held back by fear. They know that something inside them's driving them, but they're just not making that jump. What would be your advice for someone listening right now in that position?
I would say protect the downside and then just do something. So a lot of people say, oh, well, just do it. But actually, that might be a bad decision. So when Richard Branson set up his airline, he did a deal where he could get rid of the airplanes and it wouldn't cost him, you know, billions. So he knew that he had to get out if things were to go wrong. And I think if you want to make a big jump, you've got to protect the downside first. And then that gives you the confidence and the volition to then just go for it. But you know, my new book's called Start Now, Get Perfect Later, because so many people make decisions bigger than they are. The reality is one big decision is actually made up of hundreds of micro decisions that you make every day that you can reverse. So the more final you make a decision, the more you pressure and stress you put on yourself. Whereas if you just see every decision as a test, oh, I'll try it. Oh, it didn't work. I won't do it again. Oh, should I do live feed videos? I did one, it didn't work. Delete it. I'll do another one. Oh, that was better. Keep it. So start now, get perfect later, and see every decision as a test rather than something that's final. And then also you embrace change and you embrace newness and you embrace opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic advice. Thank you, Rob. You've been an amazing guest on Escape the Rat Race Radio today. And, you know, if you haven't checked out any of Rob's books previously, Life Leverage of Money, and of course the forthcoming book, which we've heard, Start Now, Get Perfect Later.
That's it.
Rob, it's been a pleasure. Take care and best of luck for the future.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.